This is the last EDM mixing tutorial that you will ever need, and this is how your tracks will sound like if you master those 6 fundamental concepts. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Vlad and I create superstar music producers. So let's dive deep into the video. So I found 6 steps that I use to make my tracks sound polished, professional, even before mixing. And you've heard that. You just heard that. So let's talk about the fundamental principles that I use in my sort of mixing workflow. So tip number 1, keep it simple. It was such a pain for me a couple of years ago when I was just adding a lot of sounds to my mixes, and I just ended up with overloaded, overcrowded mixes that took like week to mix because there was so much stuff to do, and I just didn't know what to do really. Right now, my arrangements, my tracks, they are fairly simple. This one is really simple, and the big benefit of this approach is that it's just easy. It's easy and fast and fun to mix such a track. Here's the thing, and I can show you. If you take a look at the amount of stuff that is happening in this track, you just listen to this. I have 2 main lead sounds that we'll talk about and just some additional layers. But really, you can see that there's not much stuff going on at the same time. So in total, this track has like 37 tracks, and the effects, we can just skip that. So really, like 30 tracks, channels for a good track, is that possible? But here's the thing, guys, just keep it simple. That's the key to a good sounding track. People love simplicity. I noticed that myself. The more simple my track is, the catchier it is for me, and especially in the club. So, tip number 2, don't fix it in the mix. You can see what it says. You won't be able to fix bad sounds and decisions. If you do, you're just trying to fix the consequences rather than the problem itself. And again, that was such big mistake for me in the past. I was just constantly trying to fix it in the mix. Oh, maybe I can keep this sound, but I fix that. I'll EQ, I'll compress, I'll do that. No, that's BS. That's just pure BS. Let me show you the sounds, how they sound just like in solo. Okay, let's take the kick and the bass, for example. Sounds good. Besides EQ and some saturation, which I wouldn't really consider mixing at all. Like, it's just something quick that I put to get the right sound, and that's it. Everything sounds clean. Really clean. The drums, everything is just, it goes really well together, and this is what you want to do with your sounds. Same goes like with the leads. If I do the same with the lead sound, right, maybe I'll bypass. And I was mixing for some clients, for people, and the problem that I see, they're like, yo, Vlad, can you mix this one for me? I was like, I was just trying to fix it, and then I send them the mix, and like, oh, I don't like it. And the problem is, a lot of people just don't get this concept that you need to have good sounds from the beginning. And here's a real life example. This track has like no mixing at all, and it sounds amazing, and in the club it sounds really good. And the more I produce music, the more I understand that I want just to keep things as they are. So that's the thing. Good sound selection, simplicity, that's going to be everything for your mix. That's super important thing. Then let's talk about the proper arrangement and composition. Again, you may have like a pretty simple track in terms of like the amount of sounds, but if you stack too much sounds on top of each other, it's not gonna go like really well for you, because bad arrangement and composition equals to bad mix, and it equals to bad sound. So balance, simplicity, and minimalism is a key to a good mix. So let me show you something. If we take a look again at the arrangement of this track, you can see, for example, that in the beginning, I don't have anything besides the main lead sound. What does that mean to you? Is that we can use a lot of reverb, we can use a lot of delay, we can really express the sound, we can really show the sound, we can do like a lot of things. And if you have like a lot of sounds, then they will just fight for the space in the mix. So simplicity. Let's say like from here. And for this one, it's just really as simple as that. Keeping things simple and you will have amazing mixes. Now, let's talk about this one. That was such a big problem for me. So this is what usually happens to me. I had the original idea that like it was pretty good, to be honest with you. And then after the mix, it was like a whole different vibe. And this is what I see with the people, when I talk to people, when I talk to like my students, is that that's the case. You just get too caught up in the processing, like, oh, compression, EQ, saturation, all of that. What we really want is that we want to have the original idea, and then after mix, it just should be polished. It should be just like a little bit better, but it shouldn't be completely different. So if we take this track after the mix, it's gonna sound pretty much the same, just like a little bit more glued together, maybe a little bit deeper, a little bit cleaner, but it will not change. It will not change. And this is why, like, you just hear how it sounds without processing. It's like it has everything. You don't need to have more. So on the spectrum analyzer, you can see that everything is balanced, and that's the thing. That's the thing. So don't get too caught up with the processing. Or I need like a lot of compression. I need this. I need that. Always like think critically. Does it really need to have like this EQ, compressor, anything that you use? And this thing was like one of the biggest breakthroughs for me, that I can just take my track, just finish the arrangement, and I can play it in the club, and in the club's like, wow, like it just sounds so good. So that's the thing. Now let's talk about my favorite technique that I call the layered cake technique. So the problem that I see just by talking to a lot of people is like, people like to stack a lot of different sounds on top of each other. So like, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 leads, 5 layers. That's crazy. Do you really need 5 layers? Because again, simple stuff is always better. So instead of doing this, stacking a lot of sounds all together, don't do it. Do this instead. Use layers in specific parts to put an accent and make it hit harder. That's like in the beginning when the kick hits, it hits harder. Then maybe there's a part like in this melody and you want to put an accent on that. And then maybe at the end of the loop. And I'm going to show you something. So a good example would be, let's listen to this, to the drums. And this is the impact. That's like the brass sort of sound. Really nice. And with the lead sound, sounds like this. Here's the thing, it's really subtle, but it makes a lot of difference in the mix. So without this one, but it's still good though. It's still good though. I like it. But now let's talk about more details. So I want to show you this one. Those 3 layers, this is basically same melody, right? You can see those are the same notes, but what would you like this? Let me make it louder. Again, it's really subtle, but in the mix, the listener, it will just subconsciously feel that, right? So again, what we are doing here, we're just emphasizing, we are putting the accent on specific parts of the melody of the track, depending like on what you want to do, right? Let's check this one. Without this one. And let's say without this one. Again, just little notes, but it makes such a big impact. This one as well. Just like a little piano hit, really subtle, but if you listen, it just sounds so good. And then, again, that's pretty much the same melody, but different sound, and altogether, it's just like this. Oops. Really nice, right? So you can see that I'm not adding, I'm just taking what I have and just using that to make the track even more interesting, right? And then the same thing goes for this one. If you check this out, so we have two main sounds, like the lead sound, and then we have the two additional layers. Listen to this all together. Right, so you can hear that I'm just using pretty much the same notes, just a bit different. You can like indeed do that. Just like use that as a guideline. Those are like not the rules, just something that works for me. And just by adding some extra layers with the same notes makes a whole lot of difference, right? So that's for the tip number 5. And then the last one is going to be automation. The problem that I see with beginners mixes is like the intensity of the track, it just remains the same throughout the whole mix. And this is not interesting, especially in the club, especially when you listen. And with the pro mix, we have like ups and downs. The example that I like using, it's like a roller coaster, right? The track should be like a roller coaster. When you go up, you go down, like, oh, wow, like unexpected. Again, you want to surprise the listener. You want to keep them engaged, to take their attention. And by having like zero variation, it's not going to work for your mix, right? So to give you an example, you can see that for this lead sound, say here, just like this, right? And the more automation you use, the better it's going to be for your mix. Right? And then the same thing here, right? If you listen in the mix, and the same here. Right, and again, we have contrast between the intensity. Before the drop, it was going up like this, and then we close the filter, and the listener like, oh, okay, there are no drums here, and I'm liking this sound. And even to me, like, you just feel that it hits right. So, with everything what I just said, you really don't need to stress that much about mixing. I would even say like the mixing is overrated. You don't need mixing. You don't really need mixing, guys. So that was it for this video. Hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any ideas, feedback, anything, much appreciated. Don't forget to like the video, to subscribe. And if you want to work with me on your music one-on-one, I'm going to put a link to my Instagram. Just send me a message and we'll have a chat and see if I can help you. Thank you guys for watching this video. See you guys in the next one.